The fire in Sector 9. The sky above Velmera was dark, even during the day. Thick clouds always covered the sun. It was a strange planet, but humans had been living there for 20 years. The air was breathable, and the soil was good for building. People came from Earth to make a new life here. Jake was one of those people. He was a simple man. Not a soldier, not a hero, just a mechanic who fixed machines in a quiet corner of Sector 9. He liked working alone. Machines didn't lie. They didn't judge. They didn't care that Jake had no family or that he didn't talk much. But that day, everything changed. Jake was fixing a power cell when he heard the first boom. The ground shook under his feet. Tools fell from the shelves. The lights flickered and died. Then came the second boom. Louder, closer. Smoke began to rise from the west side of Sector 9. Jake dropped his tools and ran outside. Flames were everywhere. Bright, hungry fires spread across buildings and homes. People screamed and ran. Sirens started to wail. A large factory had exploded, and now the fire was out of control. Jake saw aliens and humans running together, helping each other. But many were trapped. The emergency bots were slow to respond. "Help! Someone help!" a voice cried. Jake turned toward the sound. Near a broken wall, a small alien girl was trapped. Her skin was pale blue, her long silver hair covered in dust. She was coughing, her arms covering her face as flames crept closer. Jake didn't think. He didn't plan. He just ran. The heat hit him like a wall. Smoke burned his lungs, but he pushed forward, stepping over burning wires and debris. His boots melted slightly, but he didn't stop. The girl was crying now, shaking in fear. "It's okay," Jake shouted, reaching her. "I got you." He pulled off his jacket and wrapped it around her. Then he lifted her in his arms. She was light, too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. The fire roared behind them as Jake ran. A beam fell from above and crashed just inches away. Flames licked at his back. His arms were burning. But still, he kept going. Finally, he made it out. Medics rushed forward, pulling the girl from his arms. Jake collapsed to the ground, coughing hard. His vision was blurry. His ears rang. He heard voices, shouting, alarms, someone calling his name. Then everything went dark. When Jake opened his eyes, he was in a medical pod. The ceiling was bright white. His body ached, and his arms were bandaged. A nurse appeared, smiling gently. "You're lucky. You saved a life today." Jake sat up slowly. "The girl, is she okay?" "She's resting. She's special." Jake frowned. "Special how?" The nurse hesitated. "She's not just any alien. Her name is Zyra. She's from a rare species. Most humans can't even touch them without getting sick." Jake blinked. "But I carried her." That's what shocked everyone. "You touched her, and she lived. And so did you." Jake leaned back, confused. Before he could ask more, the door opened. It was her. Zyra stood quietly at the doorway. She wore a clean robe now. Her silver hair was brushed, and her eyes, glowing soft purple, were fixed on Jake. She stepped forward, slowly. "Why did you save me?" she asked in a soft voice. Jake shrugged. "You needed help. No one else came for me. Not even my own people," she said. "But you did." Jake gave a weak smile. "Guess I'm just stubborn." Zyra looked at him, serious. "You don't know what you've done." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Should I be worried?" Zyra stepped closer. She touched his hand. This time, no pain, no sickness, just warmth. "You changed my fate," she whispered. "And now, I must change yours." Before Jake could reply, alarms rang again. A red light flashed. Zyra turned sharply. "They'd found us." "Who?" Jake asked. She looked back at him, eyes filled with fear and something else. "Power. The ones who started the fire. They weren't trying to kill me. They were trying to take me. Jake's heart raced, and in that moment he knew his simple life was over. Something big was coming, something dangerous, and it all began with the fire in Sector 9. The girl who couldn't be touched. The next morning on Velmera began with silence. The smoke from Sector 9 still hung low in the sky. People were cleaning, rebuilding, counting the injured. But the biggest question wasn't about the fire. It was about the man who survived touching the untouchable. Jake. He sat on the edge of his medical pod, arms wrapped in fresh bandages, watching the news play on a small holoscreen. His name was everywhere. His face, his voice, even his background had become public. Human mechanic saves rare alien girl in Sector 9 fire. No human has ever touched a Xerian and lived. Until now. Jake turned the screen off. He hated attention. All he did was pull a scared kid from a fire. That didn't make him a hero. But no one seemed to understand that, especially not the dozens of scientists now gathering around Zira. She was a mystery to them, a living one. Xerians were known across the galaxy as one of the most powerful species, and the most distant. Their bodies gave off energy fields that could burn human cells. Even accidental contact had once put an entire medical team in quarantine. But Jake had held Zira in his arms. He should have died. Instead, she looked, peaceful beside him. Zira sat in a sealed observation room, separated from everyone by thick transparent walls. Machines floated around her, scanning her vitals, checking her aura. She ignored them all. Her eyes stayed locked on the door, waiting. Finally, it opened, and Jake stepped in. He wasn't supposed to visit her. Security rules, health risks, political issues. He didn't care. He just walked in like it was nothing. And Zira smiled for the first time. "You're not afraid," she said softly. Jake chuckled. "Should I be? Most are. Even my own people fear touching me." "Well, I'm not most people." Zira stood and took a step closer. No suits, no shields, just her and Jake, face to face. Jake looked around. "Aren't they watching us?" "Yes, but they won't stop me now." "Why not?" Zira reached out and touched his hand. No pain, no sparks, just warmth, like the sun breaking through a cold day. "Because I chose you," she whispered. Jake frowned. "Chose me? For what?" Zira's eyes glowed brighter. "You saved me. That's more than anyone's ever done. And my people believe in life debts. That means I now belong to you." Jake stepped back, surprised. "Whoa, wait. I don't want anyone to belong to me. I just did what anyone would do." Zira shook her head. "No, not anyone. No one ran into the fire. Only you." Jake didn't know what to say. He wasn't looking for thanks. He just didn't want her to feel alone. But her next words sent a chill down his spine. "They're coming," she said. "The ones who started the fire. The ones who want me. They know I'm alive." Jake's stomach tightened. "Who are they?" Zira looked down. "They are called the Core Syndicate. They hunt rare species, sell us, experiment on us, use our powers for war." Jake swallowed hard. "Why you?" "Because I'm the last of my bloodline," she said quietly, "and my energy can power an entire army if controlled." Jake shook his head. "So they tried to burn you alive. They tried to destroy the evidence, but you ruined their plan when you pulled me out." A loud beep interrupted them. A voice echoed through the room. "Unauthorized contact detected. Security team en route." Jake cursed under his breath. "They're kicking me out." Zira's expression hardened. "Then we have to go. Now." "What?" "They will never let us be safe here. The Syndicate has spies everywhere, even on this planet." Jake hesitated. "I don't even know where to go." Zira stepped forward. "I do. There's a place. The Hidden Council. My people built it long ago. If I reach them, they'll protect me. And now, They'll protect you too. Jake looked at her glowing eyes, her calm but serious voice. She was just a girl, but something about her felt bigger than the stars outside. He nodded slowly. All right, but how do we get out of here? Zira smiled slightly. I have one power they don't expect. What's that? I can bend light, just enough to make us disappear. The door burst open. Guards with stun rifles entered the outer room. But by the time they reached Zira's chamber, it was empty. Later that night, Jake and Zira stood hidden in the shadows near the edge of Velmera's largest spaceport. Cargo ships flew in and out, moving across the stars. Jake wore a long coat, trying to blend in. Zira stood close, hood over her head. You sure this will work? Jake asked. Zira looked up at him. I trust you. You trust me. That's how we win. Jake nodded. Let's do it. As they stepped into the crowd, neither of them noticed the silver drone floating far above them. Watching, recording. A voice on the other end whispered, They're on the move. Don't let them leave the planet. Target on Jake. The night sky over Velmera was alive with lights. Cargo ships flew overhead like silent shadows. Neon signs flickered in alien languages. People moved through the dark streets. Humans, aliens, robots, all rushing through life, unaware of the secret hiding just a few feet away. Jake and Zira sat in the corner of an old junkyard near the spaceport. It smelled like burnt metal and oil, but it was safe for now. Jake checked the small scanner in his hand. No signals. No drones. We're clear. Zira pulled her hood lower. Not for long. She wasn't wrong. Ever since they escaped the medical center, the core syndicate had been hunting them. They'd taken over comms, bribed officers, and even hacked spaceport cameras. Jake had seen the wanted posters. Human male harboring high-value alien asset. Dangerous. Do not approach. They made him sound like a criminal, but he didn't care. Zira sat across from him, quiet, her glowing eyes staring at the stars. What are you thinking? Jake asked. She looked at him. About home. I barely remember it. I was taken when I was very young. Jake leaned back. I thought your people hid you. They tried. But the syndicate found us. They took my family. I was the only one who escaped. Jake's fists tightened. They'll never get you again. Zira smiled. I know. You're different. You don't see me as a weapon. You're not, Jake said. You're just a girl who deserves to live free. Suddenly, a sharp beeping noise came from Jake's scanner. Zira jumped up. What is it? Jake stared at the screen. Motion. Someone's coming. 3 life forms. Fast. Before they could run, figures appeared at the edge of the junkyard. Black armor. Red visors. Syndicate trackers. Jake grabbed Zira's hand and pulled her behind a pile of broken ship parts. We don't have weapons, he whispered. I don't need weapons, Zira said. The syndicate moved in slowly, scanning the area. Jake held his breath. But Zira, she stepped forward. The air around her shimmered. The light bent, wrapping around her body like a shield. She walked calmly into view. Target confirmed, one of the soldiers said. Do not engage. Orders are to capture alive. They raised their stun guns. Zira raised her hands. And everything exploded. Not fire. Not sound. Gravity. The trackers were pulled off their feet, thrown backward like dolls. One hit a wall. Another crashed into a pile of steel. The third floated midair, struggling to breathe. Zira's eyes glowed like twin stars. Her voice was soft, but full of power. You won't touch him. Jake stepped out, amazed. What was that? I told you, she said. They wanted to control my energy. That's why I had to hide. The soldiers groaned, slowly trying to crawl away. Jake helped one of them up. Tell your bosses, if they come again, next time, she won't show mercy. The man nodded and ran. Zira turned to Jake. We can't stay here. Jake agreed. Let's move. But we need a ship. She nodded. There's someone who owes my family a favor. She lives near the lower docks. A smuggler. Jake raised an eyebrow. Smuggler. She doesn't ask questions. The lower docks were quiet. Ships floated above the landing pads, waiting for cargo or passengers. The air smelled of oil and sea salt from Velmera's nearby water fields. Zyra led Jake to a rusty metal door hidden behind storage crates. She knocked twice, paused, then once more. The door opened. A woman stood inside. Long red hair, mechanical arm, eyes that scanned like lasers. Zyra, she said, shocked. It's me, Lena. I need help. Lena looked at Jake. Who's the human? He saved my life. Lena stepped aside. Come in. The inside was a mix of tech, weapons, and old alien maps. It looked like a pirate's hideout. Jake didn't trust it. But Zyra seemed calm. We need to get off this planet, she said, to reach the hidden council. Lena rubbed her chin. I have a ship. Fast, but not cheap. Jake stepped forward. We'll pay. Lena smiled. I know you will. Before they could react, the room filled with a gas. Jake coughed. His knees buckled. Zyra's eyes widened. You betrayed us. Lena shrugged. It's business. The syndicate offered a reward. One I can't ignore. Jake fell to the floor. His last sight was Zyra being pulled away by energy cuffs, glowing blue, her eyes filled with tears. Hours later, Jake woke up alone, tied to a chair in an empty room. His head throbbed. His heart pounded. Zyra was gone, but her last words echoed in his mind. You saved me. Now I'll save you. And Jake knew one thing. This fight wasn't over. It had just begun. Powers unleashed. The cell was dark. Cold metal walls. No windows. No sounds. Zyra sat on the floor, knees to her chest, glowing cuffs tight around her wrists. The cuffs were made of nulite, a rare element that blocked alien powers. She couldn't feel her energy, couldn't move light, couldn't bend gravity. She was alone. And worse, Jake was gone. She closed her eyes and focused, not on her power, but on the memory of his voice, his hands pulling her from fire, his promise. You're not a weapon. You're just a girl who deserves to live free. Zyra's chest hurt. She had trusted Lena, her mother's old friend. She thought she was safe, but the syndicate's reach was everywhere now. Even friends turned into enemies for the right price. She looked down at her wrists. The cuffs were glowing blue, but deep inside her, something else was glowing too. Something stronger. Jake was on the move. His hands were bruised. His face was cut, but his heart was burning. He'd escaped Lena's guards using nothing but a loose bolt, a broken pipe, and a lot of anger. Now he was crawling through an old ventilation shaft, looking for Zyra. He didn't know where they were keeping her, but he knew one thing. He wouldn't leave without her. As he moved, he heard voices below. Room 7 is on lockdown, one guard said. She's calming down now, another replied. Those cuffs drain every spark. She won't fight. Jake smiled grimly. They didn't know Zyra like he did. She wasn't calm. She was waiting. Inside room 7, Zyra stood. She could barely feel her legs, but her mind was sharp. She whispered ancient words from her mother's tongue, words meant to connect spirit to light. A small flicker appeared at her fingertips. Then, the cuffs sparked. Something was wrong. The glow was fading, not hers. The cuffs. Zyra opened her eyes, wide with realization. The energy inside her wasn't stopping, it was growing. The fire had changed her. The moment Jake touched her, something ancient had awakened inside her bloodline. A dormant power, only triggered by true connection. The cuffs couldn't contain her anymore. They cracked, snapped, and exploded. The room filled with golden light. Alarms blared. Guards rushed in. And Zira floated. Not walked. Floated. Her feet were inches above the ground. Her hair moved like waves. Her eyes were burning with light, not rage, but purpose. "You locked me up," she said, voice echoing through metal. "You tried to sell me." The first guard raised his gun. Zira blinked. The gun shattered into dust. The second guard screamed. His armor bent inward like it was made of paper, not crushed, but folded gently, like metal had lost its will to fight. The others ran. Zira didn't chase them. She turned to the door, and it opened on its own. Standing there was Jake, covered in dirt, holding a stolen stun blade, completely stunned. "You okay?" he asked. Zira smiled. "Better now." Jake stared at the floating lights around her body. "You're glowing." "So are you," she said softly. Jake looked down. "I think that's just oil." They both laughed. Only for a moment. Then the hallway shook. The Syndicate had activated their final defense, Project Lockdown. Heavy blast doors dropped. Drones flew down from the ceiling. The ship began to tilt, preparing for takeoff. "They're leaving the planet," Jake shouted. "They want to take me off-world," Zira said. "Once they do, I'll be lost." Jake grabbed her hand. "Then we stop them. Now." Zira nodded. "Hold on." Jake barely had time to blink before he felt the air ripple. Light bent around them. The hallway melted into color. And suddenly, they were at the command deck. The pilots screamed. "How did you?" Zira raised one hand. The ship stopped moving. Not just the engine. Everything. Time itself slowed inside the command room. She turned to Jake. "This is my power now. I control space. I control light. But it's not for hurting. It's for choosing." Jake watched her step forward. Calm. Unshaken. She looked at the Syndicate captain, a tall figure in red armor. "Why do you hunt me?" she asked. "Because you're dangerous." "No," she said. "I'm only dangerous when you give me no choice." The captain laughed. "What will you do? Destroy us?" Zira walked closer. "No." She lifted her hand. And instead of burning them, she made everything disappear. Not dead. Just gone. She bent the space around them, wrapping them in loops of light, locking them in a gravity field that would keep them frozen for 100 years. Then she turned to Jake. "It's over," she said. "For now." Jake grinned. "Remind me never to make you angry." Zira laughed. But her eyes were sad. "I don't want this power to control me," she said. "I want to find my people. I want peace." Jake nodded. "Then we go to the Hidden Council." Zira looked at the stars outside the window. Together. Jake offered his hand. Always. She took it. And together, they stepped off the ship. Into a future that no one, not even the stars, could predict. Betrayal and escape. The night wind on the mountain was cold and sharp. Zira and Jake stood on a rocky ledge high above the clouds. Behind them was the Syndicate ship, empty now, floating powerless in a frozen gravity field. In front of them was a long winding trail, lit only by the soft blue glow of moonstones. At the edge of the cliff stood a tall stone door carved into the mountain. Symbols older than any language shimmered across its surface. They had reached it. The Hidden Council. Zira took a deep breath. "We're here." Jake stepped beside her, still holding her hand. "So, what now?" Zira walked toward the stone door. A soft hum filled the air. The symbols pulsed. A light scanned her from head to toe. Then the door opened, slowly, like something ancient waking up from a long sleep. Inside, the walls sparkled with crystal lights. Alien figures in robes stood silently on floating platforms, watching. Some had wings. Some had no faces. All of them radiated power. Jake's breath caught. "This is not what I expected." Zira dropped to one knee. Elders of the Council, I am Zyra of the Zyrian Flameblood. I request protection and the right to choose my own path. One of the robed figures floated down. It had no eyes, just a mouth made of shifting light. We know who you are, child, and we have seen your journey. Zyra looked up. Then you know this human saved my life. He stood by me. He deserves protection too. The room went quiet. Jake shifted uncomfortably. I'm just a mechanic, really. Another elder spoke. No human has ever stood in our hall. Your presence is unusual. Zyra stepped closer. Then let him prove his worth. The council murmured. Finally, the central elder raised its hand. The human must face the trial of harmony. Only then can he stay. Jake blinked. Trial of what now? Zyra turned to him, her eyes serious. It's a test, not of strength, but of heart. You don't have to do it. Jake smiled. I didn't come this far to walk away now. The trial chamber was nothing but light. Jake stood in the center, alone. No weapons, no walls, just endless white. Then the world shifted. He was back in Sector 9. Flames everywhere. Screams in the distance. He ran forward, just like that day. But this time, no one was there. No Zyra. No fire to fight. Just silence. A voice echoed in his mind. Would you still run into the fire if no one remembered your name? Jake stopped. Would he? He thought about it. Thought about Zyra. About that moment when everything else fell away and only one thing mattered, saving her. He closed his eyes and whispered, yes, I'd still run. The fire vanished, and the light returned. When Jake opened his eyes, the council stood before him once more. The central elder nodded. You have passed. You may stay. Zyra smiled and ran to him, hugging him tightly. But not everyone was smiling. In the back of the room, someone stepped forward, clapping. Slow, cold. Jake turned. It was Lena. She wore a sleek black cloak now, her robotic arm polished and gleaming. I told them I could find you, she said. I just didn't say how soon. Zyra stepped in front of Jake. You're not welcome here. Lena smirked. That's funny, because the council invited me. The elders turned toward her. She speaks the truth, one said. Lena was once a guardian of the Flameblood, before she turned away. Jake's eyes narrowed. You betrayed Zyra, sold her out. I made a deal, Lena said. The syndicate pays well. But this place, this council, owes me something too. She pointed at Zyra. You're not the only one with royal blood. Zyra froze. No, she whispered. You're lying. I'm your cousin, Lena said. And I want what's mine. The council began to stir. By bloodline law, an elder said, Lena may challenge Zyra for the title of Flamebearer. Jake stepped forward. She doesn't want power. She just wants peace. But Zyra raised her hand. It's all right, Jake. I'll face her. No weapons, no death, the council announced. Only a duel of will. The floor shifted beneath them. Two glowing circles appeared. Zyra and Lena stepped into them. Lights swirled. Energy crackled. The duel had begun. Inside the circle, there was no ground, only memory. Zyra stood in her past. The fire, the pain, the loneliness. But she saw Jake's face, his hands pulling her out, his voice calling her back to life. You are not alone. She stepped forward, glowing brighter. Lena stood in her own memory, abandoned, angry, always second. She screamed, pushing dark energy forward. You took everything. Zyra held her ground. I never wanted power. I only wanted freedom. The light clashed with shadow. Zyra raised her hand, and instead of fighting, she offered it. I forgive you, she whispered. Lena trembled, and the darkness cracked. The duel ended. Zyra stood alone in the circle, glowing like a new dawn. Lena was on her knees, tears falling. The council spoke, voices like thunder and music combined. Zira has won, not by force, but by heart. Jake ran to her, smiling wide. You did it. Zira looked at Lena. I hope you find peace. And then she turned to the council. I choose my own path, and I choose him. She took Jake's hand, and the council, at last, bowed their heads. Then go, they said, together, as equals. Outside the mountain, the wind blew again. But this time, it wasn't cold. It was free. The trial of worth. The sky above the council peaks changed colors slowly, shades of violet, silver, and gold. Below, in the valley hidden by clouds, Jake stood at the edge of a stone platform, surrounded by silence. The elders had summoned him alone. No Zira, no one else, just him. He turned and looked at the wide staircase behind him, where he had said goodbye to Zira only minutes ago. She had placed her hand on his heart and whispered, They won't hurt you, but they will test everything you are. Jake had smiled then. But now, standing here, he wasn't smiling. He was scared. A soft hum vibrated through the air. The council's voice echoed from above. Jake, human of Earth, you have passed one trial. But to walk beside the flame-bearer, you must pass another. Jake looked up. What kind of trial? The trial of worth, not of power, not of courage, but of truth. The stone floor beneath him shifted. He stumbled but kept his balance. The sky turned dark. The air thickened. He was no longer on the platform. He was in a memory. A dusty room. Earth. Many years ago, Jake was 16, sitting on a hospital chair. His mother lay in a bed nearby, pale and weak. He remembered this day, the last time she smiled. You have to let go, Jake, she said gently. I don't want to, he whispered. You have a big heart, she said, but pain will turn it hard if you let it. Tears rolled down his cheeks, real ones, even now. He wanted to run away, escape this memory. But the council's voice returned. This is your truth. Can you accept it, or will you keep hiding from it? Jake sank to his knees. He had spent his whole life fixing things because he couldn't fix her. He had lived alone, far from people, because losing her had broken something deep inside. But now he understood. Zira wasn't someone to protect just to ease his own guilt. She wasn't a second chance. She was her own person, with strength, pain, and hope of her own. And he wanted to walk beside her, not ahead, not behind. Beside. Jake looked up, tears falling freely. Yes, I accept it. I'm not here to be a hero. I'm just here to be myself. The room faded. The stars returned. And Jake found himself standing back on the stone platform. This time, he was not alone. Zira stood across from him, eyes filled with emotion. She had seen it all. The council had shared his trial with her. She walked toward him slowly. You faced your pain. Jake nodded. I had to. Zira took his hand. Now we face mine. The elders appeared in a circle of light. The flame-bearer has chosen to walk with the human. But her bond is not complete. Zira, you must face the echo of flame. Jake frowned. What's that? Zira closed her eyes. It's the voice of my ancestors. The fire in my blood. It decides if I am truly free, or if I still belong to the past. The platform began to crack. Fire rose around them, not burning, but alive. Warm, watching. And from the flames stepped a figure. Tall, cloaked in red light. It had Zira's face, but older, colder. It spoke with her voice, only deeper. You are weak. You forgave your enemies. You chose a human over your duty. I chose peace, Zira replied. You turned your back on your people. I turned away from pain. You threw away power. I never wanted power. The echo stepped forward. Then prove it. Let go of the fire. Zira hesitated. Jake touched her shoulder. You don't need it to be strong. She looked into his eyes, then back at the echo. I am not your prisoner anymore, she said. I carry your fire, but it does not carry me. The echo raised a hand. Zira raised hers too. But instead of fire, light poured out of her. Gentle, clear, beautiful. The echo screamed, and the flames dissolved. Zira collapsed into Jake's arms, but she was smiling. Free. Later, the council spoke for the final time. You have both passed your trials. By heart, by truth, by fire. They stepped forward together. Jake of earth, Zira of flameblood. From this day forward, you walk as one, not bound by law, but by choice. Jake looked at Zira, still amazed by her. She looked back, her eyes glowing softly. You helped me find my freedom. And you helped me find my worth, he replied. The council bowed. And for the first time in generations, a human and an alien were named guardians together. Not by war, not by force, but by trust. That night, Zira and Jake sat under the stars, far from the mountain, far from trials. They looked out at the galaxy ahead. Where do we go now? Jake asked. Zira smiled. Wherever we want. The shock that changed the galaxy. The stars above Velmera shone brighter than ever. Not because the sky was clearer, but because the galaxy itself had changed. It started with a message. A short, simple broadcast sent from the highest peak of the Council Mountains. It traveled across thousands of systems, through war zones, trade hubs, barren moons, and crowded planets. The message showed a flame, a symbol once feared. But then came the image of Zira, standing tall beside a human. Jake. She spoke softly, but her voice echoed through every species translator, clear and strong. We were once told we couldn't stand together, that humans and Zirians could not touch, could not trust, could not be one. But this man saved me, and I saved him. We passed every trial, not to gain power, but to gain peace. From today, no species will be seen as lesser. Love, courage, and choice are greater than fear. This is not a warning. This is an invitation. And with that, the galaxy shook. But not with fear, with hope. On the trade station Calaxis Prime, two enemy merchants paused their argument and watched the message. Then, they shook hands. On the war-torn moon of Zavera, soldiers laid down their plasma rifles and stared at the screen, their helmets wet with tears. And on Earth, humans cheered. For the first time, one of their own had not just survived among the stars, but had changed them. Jake's name was no longer a mystery. It was a symbol. Back on Velmera, things were changing fast. Zira and Jake stood outside a newly built sanctuary called the Bridge, a place where humans and aliens could meet, talk, learn, and live as equals. They didn't call it a temple. They didn't call it a government. They called it a beginning. People came from every corner of the galaxy. Some wanted answers. Others wanted peace. Many were still afraid, but they came anyway. Zira taught the young ones how to use their gifts without fear. Jake taught the older ones how to fix broken machines and broken hearts. Together, they built something stronger than weapons. They built trust. One morning, as the twin suns rose, Zira sat on a stone bench beside Jake, her silver hair catching the light. "Do you ever miss your old life?" she asked. Jake smiled. "Sometimes." It was quiet. Safe. "Do you regret saving me?" she whispered. Jake looked at her. Every fire burns something down, but sometimes it makes space for something better. Zira nodded. "My people feared your kind for generations. I feared you too, until the moment you didn't fear me." Jake reached for her hand. "Maybe fear is just waiting for kindness." They sat in silence as a group of young humans and alien children played nearby, their laughter rising like music. but not everyone celebrated. In the shadows of a forgotten system, the last leaders of the core syndicate met in secret. Their plans were ruined, their labs destroyed, their weapons useless against the new wave of unity sweeping the stars. One of them slammed a fist on the table. "This isn't peace, it's weakness." Another whispered, "No, it's evolution." They looked at each other. The age of power was ending. The age of understanding had begun, and they could either hide in the past or face the future. Back on Velmara, a celebration was held under the twin moons. Leaders from 100 species came. Peace treaties were signed. Old enemies hugged. Children painted stars on each other's faces. Zara stood before the crowd and raised her hand. "Tonight," she said, "we do not forget the pain behind us, but we choose to move forward anyway, together." Then Jake stepped forward. "I never wanted to be a hero," he said. "I just saw someone who needed help. That's it. You don't need power to change the galaxy. Just one kind act, one real choice." The crowd cheered. Zara turned to him. "You've changed everything." Jake shook his head. "We did." They held hands, and the stars above them danced. Later that night, Zara walked alone to the edge of the old mountain ledge where her journey began. She looked out over the lights of the city below, humans and aliens living side by side. Then she heard footsteps behind her. "Jake, I thought you were asleep," she said. He shrugged. "I couldn't. Too many stars out tonight." She smiled. "I keep thinking about the fire," she whispered. "The one that almost ended me. It felt like the end of everything." Jake nodded. It wasn't the end. It was the spark. Zara turned to him. "I'm not a weapon," she said. "No," Jake agreed. "You're a light in the dark." She leaned into him, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of being touched. She was already home. Years passed. Legends grew, not about gods or warriors, but about a mechanic and an alien girl who proved that kindness was stronger than fear. Their story was passed down through songs, stories, and dreams. And when people across the galaxy faced fire, darkness, or hate, they remembered them. The human who ran into the flames, the alien who forgave, and the bond that shocked the galaxy, not with power, but with love.